On this episode of Tony's Fords and Mustangs, we get into driving modes, what they actually do, and a little bit of line lock because I need something to attach to my intro. So I've spent the last 4 days reviewing everything I could find on the driving modes. Looking at Ford's website, looking at different folks that have the car's website, and the driving modes were introduced in 2018 to the S550, so a lot of you folks probably know these things, but if you're new to a Mach 1, I came from a Boss 302, I had 2 driving modes, regular key and red key. Now I've got 5. So I wanted to try to find out what's going on. And when you go to the owner's manual, it kind of gives you a real general idea of what and where they should be used. But it really doesn't get into what's happening with these driving modes, what they actually do. So I did a lot, like I said, done a lot of research. And a lot of it led to, down one rabbit hole to another. But from what I can tell, the 5 things that are really affected by the different driving modes are your stability control, your traction control, the Magna Ride settings, your active exhaust settings, your engine mapping, and for those with the 10-speed automatic, your transmission settings. So I know it's way more complicated than that, and there's a lot of different variables that can be used, and I think that's why Ford just kind of gives you some general information on each driving mode and what it does. But I'm going to do my best to try to explain it to you. So let's go with what's called normal first. And I really think that's misnamed. It should almost be called comfort because that's what it's there for. So your throttle response is lessened. The Magna Rides go to the most comfortable setting. The stability control is on all the way. Your traction control is on all the way. Those with automatic transmissions will notice that the shifts are a lot smoother. And you're shifting more often because they're looking at fuel economy. So the normal mode, I do use normal mode, but I typically use it for long interstate drives. If I'm going to be on the interstate for a couple hundred miles, which is like my own personal hell, if that's going to happen, then I'm going to go to a normal mode. There's no need for any of the safeties to be off, and really I'm just kind of sitting there cruising along. There's not a whole lot happening for me on the interstate other than driving along at 5 to 10 over and moseying. So that's kind of where I see that driving mode. Now, the next mode I'm going to cover is snow wet. And snow wet that's pretty self-explanatory, but what's happening there is your traction control now is full on. Your stability control is full on. In the auto, your shift points are going to come real lazy because they don't want that abrupt stop that caused the wheel spins to get you in the ditch. It's a mode that I never intend to use. When I had the Cup 2 tires on in the rain, I did click it into snow wet. I don't know if it did anything, but I'm still here and the car's still here, so I hope that worked out pretty well. I would imagine that your throttle response at that point is going to be less engaging. So snow wet's something that none of us really want to use, but it's there if you have to use it. If you get stuck somewhere, it's your best chance of getting home safely. So the next mode I want to cover, and it's my favorite mode, it's Sport Plus. So Sport Plus is going to leave your traction control on. It's going to take it off a little bit. There's different increments on these drive modes, and you can tell. You can get a little bit of wheel slip, but not so much that you're going to get in trouble. Your stability control is still there. Your engine mapping, your throttle response is definitely better in Sport Plus. Also, the ride stiffens, so the shocks are going to become stiffer. Those with the automatic transmissions are going to notice a more abrupt shift, and it's going to stay engaged a little bit longer. It's not going to jump in and out of gear so much. Sport Plus is what I have the car in most of the time. If I'm driving around the back roads, and that's kind of where I like to live. If you're up in the twisties, those type of things, that's the mode that you're going to want as Sport Plus. Drag mode. This is kind of interesting. So it does a lot as far as similar to track mode with your engine mapping, that type of thing. But with specifically to the Magna Ride, it uses a trick that a lot of the old schoolers like me used to do. We used to have air shocks back in the day. And if you had the clearance for your tires with air shocks and you were going to drag race, the thing you would do if you were wise is lower the air and the shocks almost all the way out. So either all the way out or almost all the way out. And the reason for that is you wanted your car to squat. You wanted the weight shifted from the engine and the car onto the rear axle. So if you've ever been stuck in snow or mud, it's not uncommon to take a passenger and ask them to jump up and down on the rear bumper. And the reason for doing that is you're getting weight on the rear axle, and that's going to give you traction. And that's what your shocks are going to do here. So your MagneRide shocks, the rear's going to get soft, the front's going to get somewhat soft on launch and then stiffen as you go. So it's going to cause the car to squat and go back. So that's kind of a neat trick there. The one thing you're going to notice in drag mode is that your traction control is still on. Once again, I don't believe that it's fully on, so it's not going to just nosedive on you when your wheels break loose, because they probably are going to break loose a little bit. But it's kind of interesting how they did that, and that's one of the things they did there. Drag strip mode, if you're going in a straight line, let her rip. You still have stability control there. You still have just a touch of traction control there, so it shouldn't throw you into another lane. And it's kind of a neat mode. Track mode. Let's talk about this one. This is one I don't really use, and it's up to you if you want to use it. The first thing you're going to notice is your traction control is off. And as far as I can tell, it's all the way off. Your stability control, I'm sure, is lessened. Your engine response is at its peak. Those with automatic transmissions are going to notice very abrupt and quick transmission shifts. You'll also notice that your exhaust, your active exhaust, is now wide open. The MagneRide is full stiff. So if you do lose it, you're going to be skating around a bit. It's risk versus reward, right? It's your decision on what you want to do. You'll get the fastest times in track mode. Then again, you might get a really bad time. And by bad time, I mean it's going to be a really bad time. So up to you. I'm not going to really risk it. I'm fine with Sport Plus. I'm okay with being a couple of tenths slower than what I should be. Because at the end of the day, I get to drive home. So the last mode we're going to cover is My Mode. And what My Mode does is it allows you to select your steering input. So you can choose whether you want the comfortable steering setting or if you want to have a little more feel in the steering wheel. It's also going to allow you to set your ride setting. So you're going to be able to set the stiffness and the MagneRide settings. And it's going to allow you to set your active exhaust, which is if you want to make noise, you can go full track active exhaust and have it there for the world to enjoy. So that's kind of My Mode. All this stuff is just my observations on what I've seen on these modes and what I could find in my research. If you're a Ford engineer and you're out there and you know, hey, when you put that, you're kind of wrong on this, and when you put this thing in this mode, here's some of the things that are drastically altered to make that experience different. I'd love to know. So I've researched everything I can. I've looked in the manuals. They're pretty general. And the last thing we're going to get into is line lock. So we're going to go into track apps, select OK, go into line lock, hold OK to initialize it, apply brake firmly and hold, press OK again, and it's in. Now you get your 15-second timer. And you can let her rip as long as you want. And then once you let go, it's going to release. Or if you hit OK again, it's going to release. Now I hit the horn there because I'm holding on to the camera. But I'll set up my cameras here and let her rip tater chip and see how she goes. Okay, hey, thanks for watching. I hope that was informative to some of you. I know it's still kind of general information. I did my best to describe what's going on. If you're, like I said, a Ford engineer, or you're someone that's in the know on the mapping and what they've done with these things, please comment in the comment section. I'd love to get a little more insight on what's going on with these different driving modes. If you have questions, hit me up. If I missed something, skip something, let me know. And subscribe, like, that would be super cool. I'd appreciate it. Thank you. I'm over 330 some subscribers, which is fantastic. And as long as I see more out there, I'll keep making these things. And hopefully I'm giving you maybe just a little tiny bit of insight. But until next time, we'll see you.